Dominance. From previous classes, you already have idea that what is dominance and recessiveness. Now, if we look at the term dominant and recessive, that describe the inheritance patterns of certain traits. That is, they describe how likely it is for a certain phenotype to pass from parents to offspring. Sexually reproducing species, including people and other animals, have two copies of each gene. The two copies are, we already know, that are called allele, can be slightly different from each other. Allele means they are two different form of same gene, but their locus or the position within the chromosome are same. The differences can cause variations in the proteins that produce, or they can change protein expression when, where, and how much protein is made. So basically, dominance and recessiveness, these two things are basically a, depend on the expression of a particular amount of protein. Proteins affect traits, so variations in protein activity or expression can produce different phenotypes. So, a dominant allele produces a dominant phenotype in individual who have one copy of the allele, which can come from just one parent, that we have already learned. Like in pea plant, if a tall plant is dominant, then if a tall T allele, capital T allele, that is a tall or dominant allele, if present in a heterozygous form, then also they are able to cause the dominance. And for a recessive allele to produce a recessive phenotype, the individual must have two copies, one from each parent. So for recessiveness, to express the recessive character, a individual must be homozygous recessive or homozygous in both of its recessive alleles. An individual with one dominant and one recessive allele for a gene will have dominant phenotype, and they are generally considered carriers for a recessive allele. The recessive allele is there, but the recessive phenotype is not, as because the recessive allele is present with a dominant one, they are not able to express their character. In that case, dominant will express its phenotype, but in also they are present and they can pass to its next progeny. The terms are confusing and often misleading. Yes, in some of the cases, dominant and recessive, both of these terms are confusing, and in some cases, they are misleading also. We will discuss that thing in the later in this lecture. Dominant and recessive inheritance are useful concepts when they comes to predicting the probability of an individual inheriting certain phenotype, especially genetic disorder. But the term can be confusing when it comes to understanding how a gene specifies a trait. That is a very important part. This confusion comes about in part because people observe dominant and recessive inheritance pattern before anyone knew anything about DNA and gene and how gene code for protein that specify trait. That is the case because dominant and recessive concept comes much earlier than the concept of gene and how a gene or DNA can code a protein. So that is why some confusion and misleading informations are present. So there are no individual mechanisms. In critical point to understand, the critical point to understand is that there is no universal mechanism by which dominant and recessive alleles act. Therefore, dominant alleles do not physically dominate or repress recessive alleles. Whether an allele is dominant or recessive depend on the particulars of the protein they code for. That means DNA, if a particular DNA is present, that particular type of DNA is present, that doesn't always means that that particular DNA is responsible. Yes, the DNA is responsible to code a particular protein, and the protein is basically basically respond or responsible for the phenotypic characters. The term can also be subjective, which adds to the confusion. The same allele can be considered dominant or recessive depending on how you look at it. That means a particular allele, we can consider it a dominant allele. In case of a sickle cell anemia, a particular allele, if it is present in a sickle cell form, that we consider a dominant one. But that particular allele, when it present with a normal individual, we consider it a recessive one. That is a main problem. So let us look into the case of sickle cell inheritance pattern. So sickle cell disease is an inherited condition that causes pain and damage to organ and muscle. Instead of having flattened, round red blood cells like this one, these red blood cells are the flattened and biconcave, round and a good looking, it's a healthy red blood cell. People with the disease have stiff sickle cell. So that is a kind of a breakage, or the cell pattern is not is healthy cell pattern. The long pointy blood cell get caught within capillaries. These pointy blood cells, thus look into the picture. This picture, these are the pointy red blood cells. They can get caught into the capillaries where they block blood flow. Muscle and organ cell doesn't get enough oxygen and nutrients, and they begin to die. So that is the biggest problem here. The disease has a recessive pattern of inheritance. Only individual with 2 copies of the sickle cell allele have the disease. So that means if a particular individual having both the allele in a sickle cell condition, they only get the sickle cell kind of disease, or their that severity of the sickle cell individual case will much higher if they have both of the sickle cell allele. So if we look at the proteins, the 2 allele code for the picture become a little more clear. So if we look at the protein, that 2 allele code, the affected protein is hemoglobin, that we all know, and oxygen carrying, this is hemoglobin is basically a oxygen carrying molecules that fills red blood cell. The sickle cell allele code for a slightly modified version of the hemoglobin protein. The modified hemoglobin protein still carries oxygen, but under low oxygen conditions, the proteins stick together. That is the severity, that is the difficulty of this kind of disease. When a person has 2 sickle cell allele, all of their hemoglobin is sticky, in sticky form, and the proteins form very long, stiff fiber that distort red blood cell. When someone has 1 sickle cell allele and 1 normal allele, only one of the hemoglobin is sticky. That means that only some of the hemoglobin is sticky. That means they have a percentage of a healthy red blood cell or a healthy hemoglobin, and a percentage of a sickle cell hemoglobin. Non-sticky hemoglobin is made from the normal allele, and the sticky hemoglobin is made from the sickle cell allele. Every cell has a copy of both of this allele. That is why the sticking together effect is getting diluted because of the presence of the healthy hemoglobin. So, and in most cells, the protein doesn't form any fibers. So, the common myth, what is the common myth? The dominant and recessive are important concepts. They are basically important concepts, but they are so often overemphasized. After all, most traits have complex, unpredictable inheritance pattern. However, at the risk of adding even more overemphasis, here are some more things you may want to know. What are those things? Dominant phenotypes are not always more common than recessive phenotypes. We all know, or we have a idea that yes, dominant phenotype, that means they are always getting dominated. That, but then also the dominant phenotype are not always more common than the recessive phenotypes. In our daily lives, we used to use some of the things or some of the materials or some of the fruits. They are having a recessive character, or the more commonly found that kind of fruit or vegetables are getting a recessive character. Let's look at that particular single cell trait. Now, these are some kinds of a condition or some kind of a that is a eye color in different populations. Looking at this, you might conclude that the dominant phenotype is twice as common as the recessive one, but you could probably be wrong. Why? Because recessive alleles can be present in a population at a very high frequency. If a recessive allele is present in a population at a very high frequency, that means majority of the people are having a homozygous recessive condition. And in that case, always recessive allele will dominate the population. So consider eye color. So eye color is influenced mainly by two genes with smaller contribution from several other genes. People with light eyes tend to carry recessive alleles of the major gene. People with dark eyes tend to carry dominant allele. In Scandinavia, most people have light eyes. The recessive allele of these genes are much more common here than the normal one. So Scandinavia means the northern European countries like Finland, Norway, Sweden, and all these. So in that particular part of the world, the population, the common population, they are basically people having a light color eyes, and that light color eyes is basically due to the presence of recessive alleles, and that population is much more predominant there. So dominant alleles are not better than recessive alleles. That is not the always or obvious case. Like mode of inheritance has nothing to do with whatever an allele benefits an individual or not. Take a rock pocket mice. This is a rock pocket mice where fur color is controlled mainly by a single gene. A single gene controls their fur color. The gene code for a protein that make dark pigment. Some rock pocket mice have dark fur and some have light fur. The dark fur allele is dominant and the light fur allele is recessive. That means when mice live in that habitat filled with dark rock, dark fur is better because it makes the mice less visible to the predator. But just look into that picture. When the mice live in a habitat filled with rock and sand, here these two mice are there. They are present in a particular habitat where the rock and sand both are present. Then the light for mice is always better. It is the environment that matters, not whether the allele is dominant or recessive. That means whether a particular allele is dominant allele is better or recessive allele is better, that depends on their environment or their habitat where they live. Not that doesn't depend on the gene conditions. So now we will look into some of the matters where dominant is not always complete. So in some cases, crosses between true breeding strains can produce hybrids with phenotypes different from both the parents. Like the two of the cases are, one is incomplete dominance and another is codominance. So incomplete dominance looks like neither parent. So incomplete dominance means the new type of phenotype is come into the picture, and codominance means both of the character of dominant and recessive present. That means they look like both of the parents. So in case of incomplete dominance, just look into the picture. Here a purple flower, sorry, Here a red flower and a ivory flower. The red flower is dominant one and the ivory flower is a recessive one. But crosses between both of these flower produce a completely different phenotype. That is a pink flower. So by looking into their inheritance pattern, we are able to see that they are in this pink flower, both of the genes from red and ivory is present. And when we cross, self-cross or self-pollinated this pink flower, that is the F1 progeny, in F2 progeny, we will get 1/4 of the red, that is the dominant one, half of the pink, that is the incomplete dominant one, and the 1/4 of the ivory, that is the recessive one. So the the phenotype of the heterozygous hybrid is usually the intermediate between the homozygous parents. So that is the pink flower is the intermediate color caused by the red and ivory flower. Segregation of both genotype and phenotype is 1:2:1. So their genotypical segregation and phenotypical segregation both are same. But in case of a complete dominant case, we found 3:1 ratio for the dominant, and in case of the codominant, we will get 3:1 phenotypic ratio, and 1:2:1 is the genotypic ratio. But here, phenotypic and genotypic, both the ratios are 1:2:1. So allele contribute different amount of functional protein. Total amount determines the phenotype. That means this red dominant gene, the red gene, and the ivory gene, both are giving their phenotype, but the total, the overall phenotype is basically depend on the amount of gene product. That means if the half of the dominant allele is present, they will produce half of the red color, and that half of the red color in presence of half of the ivory, it will produce a pink phenotype. So that is the case of the incomplete dominance. So like precursor and the red pigment. So precursor to red pigment is basically governed by or catalyzed by one enzyme, that is a red pigment forming enzyme. Like A equal to the dominant allele make normal enzyme, and small a is the recessive allele makes a defective enzyme. So the amount of red pigment present is dependent on the amount of enzyme present, which is dependent on the number of wild type copies of the gene. That means if A is present double in number, that will produce double gene product. That is why in AA, homozygous dominant condition, the flower shows red in color. But in heterozygous condition, the A is able to, capital A or dominant allele is able to produce half of the gene product than the homozygous one. So in heterozygous, half of the gene product is produced, and in recessive case, no gene product will produce. That is why in a heterozygous condition, they will produce a pink phenotype. This is caused the dosage effect. The amount of protein is directly proportional to the amount of product. Now, in incomplete dominance of F2 segregation, in case of F2, we will get the R and R prime, and here also R and R prime, the pink one, both are the pink. And if we cross both of this R and R prime, we will get capital R, capital R, capital R, R prime, capital R, R prime, and R prime, R prime. And in this case, you can also do this particular cross with the help of AA, capital A also, capital A and small a also. So what is the genotype? Genotype is 1:2:1, and phenotype is also 1:2:1. So notice anything? Both of the genotype and phenotype are same. So that is the beauty of this incomplete dominance. Now we will look into the factor of codominance. Just look into this picture. The capital R small r is the red one, capital W is the white one. So now, if capital R and capital R, small r and capital R W is present in a particular cow, that will produce a roan feature. That means some mosaic feature of red and white. So that means in this particular cow, both of the feature of white and red is present. So that means that is basically depend on the type of gene and the type of gene product. The phenotype of the heterozygote is not intermediate between the phenotype of the homozygote. So this homozygote, this the absolute red and absolute white are the homozygous condition, and the heterozygous condition are not the intermediate of the homozygous. So in this case, we are not able to get a pink cow, but instead of a pink cow, we will get a cow having both the red and white color in their body. So rather, the heterozygote simultaneously express the phenotype of the both homozygote. An example of the codominance is seen in our Mn blood types. So there are plenty of blood types are present, but we commonly focus in the ABO blood grouping pattern. But ABO blood grouping pattern or Mn blood grouping pattern, in both of these blood grouping pattern, the main concept lies behind this is the codominance. The Mn locus code for one of the type of antigen on the red blood cell. Unlike antigen foreign to the ABO, and Rh blood group will also code for the red blood cell antigen. Foreign Mn antigen do not elicit a strong immunological reaction, and therefore the Mn blood type are not routinely considered in blood transfusion. That means in case of ABO blood grouping, ABO blood group is basically reactive. They are more reactive. In case of the presence of foreign ABO in AB in a individual, the antigenic reaction is much higher. That is why this ABO and Rh blood grouping is actually considered for the routine blood transfusion cases. At Mn locus, there are two allele, capital LM allele, which codes for M antigen, and capital L, capital N allele, which code for the N antigen. Homozygotes with genotype LM express the M antigen and their red blood cell and have the M blood type. Homozygotes with the genotype of LN express the N antigen and have the N blood type. So just look into this chart. LM is the M phenotype, antigen present in the red blood cell is the M. LN is the Mn blood type, and antigen, both of the M and N antigen are present in the blood. And in case of this LN, only N phenotype is present and only N antigen is present in the blood. So now we come into the particular factor, that is a pseudo-dominance. Pseudo-dominance is a situation in which the inheritance of a recessive trait mimics a dominant pattern. Normally, two recessive alleles need to be inherited, one from each parent, for the recessive trait to be expressed, but recessive merely means that the trait is only expressed in the absence of the dominant allele. So, the pattern of inheritance in which a single recessive allele is inherited but it's still expressed, it is known as the pseudo-dominance. That means they are not actually the dominant gene, but then also the presence of only one recessive allele is sufficient to produce the expression of dominant kind pattern. So that is known as the pseudo-dominance. This mainly occurs with sex-linked gene, those on the sex chromosome, and homogametic sex, female in humans, receive two of each sex chromosome and therefore need to be homozygous to show a recessive trait. The heterogametic sex, that is male, only receive one of the each sex chromosome and will therefore show recessive trait even if they have only inherited a copy of the recessive allele. So that is the beauty. Like in case of female, they are having two X chromosome. So if they want to get some X-linked disease, they need to that X-linked dominant or X-linked recessive disease need to get present on both of the X gene or X chromosome. But in case of male, they are having only one X chromosome. So instead of getting, if they get a single recessive gene in their X chromosome, then also they are able to get phenotypic character of that disease, like the hemophilia. We will discuss that later in our class. So this is for today's lecture, and we will continue our allelic interactions in our next classes also. So thank you.